I'm 25 years old now, and just recently, I went to celebrate my dad's 49th birthday with the family. But hold on, before I dive into that story, I've got to fill you in on some drama between me and my younger brother, who's 22. This whole mess started about 3 years ago. Back then, I was dating this girl. We'll call her C, and she was 24 at the time. C and I were super close since high school. She was my world, and I thought I meant the same to her. The drama unfolded around Thanksgiving. I was out picking up some desserts for the holiday after crashing at a buddy's place because I was helping them move. When I finally got back to my place, I noticed something weird. C and all her stuff were gone. I tried calling her, but no luck. It just rang out to voicemail. I even tried to check where she was through her phone's location thingy, but it looked like she turned it off. Curious and a bit worried, I decided to check the footage from my front door camera. And guess what I saw? My own brother was there, helping C move her things into his car, and then they both just drove off. After seeing my brother helping C move out, I immediately tried to call him, but just like C, he wouldn't pick up his phone either. This made me super anxious and jumped to all kinds of conclusions. But then a part of me was like, no way, my brother wouldn't do something like this to me. You see, growing up, my brother and I were super close, practically best friends. Sure, we didn't hang out as much after I went off to college, but we still kept in touch, talked a lot, and even hung out whenever we could. So, in a bit of a panic and looking for answers, I called my dad and basically got him to have my mom call my brother. They put him on speakerphone, and when my mom straight up asked him where C was, his answer felt like a punch in the gut. He said, "She's living with me now. She broke up with OP." I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was frozen, hoping it was some sick joke. I went and checked his Facebook and Instagram for any clues, and there it was. Pictures of them together, hugging and kissing. That just broke me. All these thoughts were racing through my head, trying to figure out why he would do something like this. I was so hurt, but then that hurt turned into anger. How could my brother, who was supposed to be my best friend, betray me like this? Fueled by that anger, I drove straight to his place and started banging on his door, demanding he come out and face me. But instead of my brother, it was C who opened the door. I totally lost it and started bawling my eyes out. It all went down when I saw her. And then, out of nowhere, my brother pops into the room from the kitchen and is like, "Hey, go upstairs." That's when he drops this bomb on me. He and she were sneaking around behind my back. He's been sorry about it since my second year in college. But then, to make things even more dramatic, C marches down the stairs and goes, "You know why I dumped you? Because I was tired of pretending to even like you." That moment was a real eye-opener for me. The girl standing in front of me, she wasn't the girl I thought I was in love with. She was someone completely different. And I started thinking, is all of this drama even worth my time? Pretty quickly, I figured out the answer was a big fat no, and I just walked away. I always try to keep things chill and not cause a scene, especially when I know getting upset won't change anything that's happened. But let me be clear, I was super angry at both of them, and I decided right then and there that they were out of my life for good. Fast forward to now, I'm living my life in California, still flying solo. There was this family get-together that was going pretty okay, until guess who shows up? My brother and his wife, and yep, they're pushing a stroller. Turns out they got married and didn't waste any time starting a family. So after everything that's happened, I'm in a place where I'm over it. Therapy helped me see that I wasn't the one messing things up. She was the problem. At a family thing, my brother tried to chat with me, but I just wasn't having it. I just kept talking to my aunt instead. After a bit, I kind of forgot my brother and his wife were even there. Then, when I was on my way to grab some more ice cream from the basement, my brother comes out of nowhere, scaring the heck out of me. He tried to say sorry for the mess he caused 3 years back, but I wasn't about to stop and listen. I just walked right by him. He didn't try to talk to me again that night. The next morning, though, my phone was blowing up with texts from my mom. She was all about me forgiving my brother, saying it's the right thing to do. Both my parents are pretty religious and have already forgiven him. But here's the thing, I can't do it. What he did messed up my ability to trust. He knew how important she was to me, and he went behind my back anyway, thinking I'd just be okay with it. But forgiving him? That's something I don't see happening. Ever. Update time. Before I dive into the update, just want to say thanks to everyone who shared their thoughts on my situation. Though, gotta say, some of you were pushing for me to get back at my brother in not so nice ways, including cutting him out for good. I get where you're coming from, but I need to clear up a few things. I'm not trying to make my mom and dad out to be the bad guys here. They actually forgave my brother way before we found out his wife was expecting a baby. And honestly, fighting my brother? That would just land me in trouble, like possibly ending up in jail, and it would just make things messier in the family. Now for the update. I had a serious talk with my mom, dad, and brother. We all sat down in my parents' living room and I just laid it all out on the table. I told them straight up how I feel about what my brother did. It's the kind of thing you can't just say it's okay and move on from. It's not about holding a grudge forever. It's more like I can't see myself wanting anything to do with him again. How can I be cool with someone who went behind my back with my friend's girlfriend? And even worse, his own brother? That's not the kind of person I want in my life. My brother tried to defend himself, saying he's changed and wouldn't make the same mistake again. But here's the thing, what he did really shook my trust to its core. He knew how much she meant to me and still went ahead with it, thinking it would all just blow over. But I just don't see how I can forgive that kind of betrayal. It's not just about what happened, it's about the trust he broke. And getting past that? It's not something I can see happening, not now, not ever. So there I was, having a real heart-to-heart with my brother and our parents, trying to make sense of everything. My brother, trying to make amends, acted like the past was just a tiny mistake, forgetting he went as far as marrying and having a baby with the girl I was planning a future with. I was like, really? And couldn't help but ask my folks how they managed to forgive him. They told me they were super disappointed in him at first, but after he found religion and started to preach, they believed he changed for the better and let it go. I had to ask them, though, if they could forgive him so easily if they were in my shoes. They said yes, they would have, but honestly, I couldn't buy it. We went back and forth for a bit until my brother tried to tell me I shouldn't hold grudges, and I'm there thinking, you're one to talk, so I told him straight up that maybe he shouldn't have gone after someone else's girlfriend in the first place. That hit a nerve, and he actually started to cry. My mom jumped in saying I was being too harsh since he's already said sorry and made amends for his actions. That's when I laid it all out on the line for them. Just like some of you suggested, I told them they had to make a choice. Either they respect my decision to steer clear of my brother and move on, or I'd have no choice but to distance myself from all of them, including my brother and his family. It was tough, but it had to be said. So after all that intense back and forth, my dad drops this line on me, saying I'd end up regretting it if I didn't forgive my brother. That made me stop and ask them straight up if that's really how they felt about the whole situation. My mom, with a sigh, finally said, fine. She admitted that they'd just have to accept my decision to keep my distance from my brother. I looked to my dad for his take, and he simply added, yeah. Feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion, I thanked them for sitting down and talking it out with me. Then, I turned to my brother, and I just had to be honest. I told him that no matter what he did from here on out, there was no way we could go back to how things were. I wished him well, but made it clear our paths were parting for good. After that, I just had to get out of there. I drove off to grab some In-N-Out because honestly, after a conversation like that, you just need a good burger and fries to help you decompress. When I got home, I was so worn out from the whole ordeal that I crashed hard. I mean, the second my head hit the pillow, I was out. Now today's a new day, and I've decided it's time to really start moving forward. I went ahead and downloaded a couple of dating apps. It feels like a good step towards getting past all this drama and starting fresh. Update 2. So, where do I even start with this mess? Feels like I've been riding the world's worst emotional roller coaster, and honestly, I'm just about ready to get off. Let's kick it off with that family gathering for my dad's 49th. Yeah, that was something. But hold up, let me backtrack a bit for those just tuning in. Me and my bro, we used to be tight, like best buds tight. Then this whole debacle with my ex C went down about 3 years back. She and I were high school sweethearts, and then boom, out of nowhere. She bails with my brother's help. Found out through a door cam and socials, yeah, they were together. Talk about a stab in the back, right? Fast forward to now, I'm in Cali doing my thing, single and kind of mingling. That family gathering I mentioned, it went from 0 to 100 real quick when my brother shows up with C and their baby. I've had enough therapy to not let it mess with me too much, but it still sucked. He tried to chat me up, but I wasn't having any of it. Then the next day, my phone's blowing up with texts from my mom, going on about forgiving my brother because of their religious beliefs and all that. But here's the thing, how do you just forgive and forget something like that? It's not just about what he did, but how it all went down. That kind of betrayal doesn't just vanish. But here's the real update. I had a sit down with my folks and my brother, laid it all out, how I felt, what it did to me, the whole 9 yards. My brother's there trying to say he's changed. But come on, he married the girl he stole from me. My parents are all about forgiveness, but I just couldn't. We went back and forth until I hit them with an ultimatum. Accept that I want nothing to do with him, or I'm out for good. Dad tried to guilt me into forgiving, saying I'd regret it otherwise. But nah, I stood my ground. They finally got it, or at least they said they did. Told my brother straight up, there's no coming back from this, and peaced out. Ended the night with some in and out, because why not? Next day, figured it was time to give the whole dating scene another shot. Downloaded a few apps and started swiping. Who knows, maybe it's time to finally turn the page on this whole saga. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Moving on, slowly but surely. Still a bit rough around the edges, but who isn't, right? Here's to whatever comes next. Update 3. So there I was, finally feeling like I'm getting my groove back, thanks to meeting Jay on one of those dating apps. You know, one of those rare matches that makes you think maybe the universe isn't totally out to get you. Jay's this amazing soul, kind, funny, and gets my weird sense of humor. We hit it off instantly, and it felt like I was finally turning a new leaf, leaving all the past drama where it belongs, in the trash. But as luck would have it, life loves throwing curveballs, especially when you least expect it. Enter C, stage left, sliding into my DMs like we're back in high school or something. Apparently, after she and my brother decided to play house together, things took a nosedive. My brother, the golden boy, found himself caught up in some serious drug issues. And see, she's on the brink of financial ruin, talking about how she can't make ends meet, and how she's been thinking about me, us, and all that jazz. She's laying it on thick, talking about regrets, what could have been, and dropping hints like she's ready for take 2. I mean, the audacity, right? There I was, trying to mend my heart, move on, and she thinks she can just waltz back into my life with a sob story and a my bad. The drama didn't stop there, though. My parents, bless their hearts, caught wind of C reaching out to me. Next thing I know, I'm getting calls left and right, texts piling up, all of them singing the same tune. Give her another chance, she's changed, family forgives, and all that. It was like they forgot the whole saga of betrayal that went down. Suddenly, I'm the bad guy for wanting to keep my peace and sanity intact. Then, as if I needed more drama, my brother reaches out. Yeah, Mr. I Stole Your Girl wants to chat, saying he's hit rock bottom and needs family more than ever. I mean, come on. The guy who wrecked my world wants a lifeline? It was almost too much to process. But here's the kicker. Amidst all this chaos, there was Jay, standing by me like some kind of superhero without a cape. We sat down one night, a bottle of cheap wine and 2 glasses, and just talked it all out. She listened, really listened, and offered her 2 cents without pushing me in any direction. Her take? Do what's right for you, not what's easy or what others expect. That talk was a game changer. It helped me see things clearly, not just through a lens of hurt and betrayal, but through what I really wanted for my future. So I decided to take the high road. Well, sort of. I replied to C, my words carefully chosen, wishing her well, but making it crystal clear that our chapter was done and dusted. No looking back, no rewrites. Hit the block button faster than you can say closure. As for my brother and the family drama, I laid down my boundaries. It wasn't easy, but necessary. I told them I'm moving forward, with or without their approval. The whole situation was like ripping off a Band-Aid that's been stuck on for too long. Painful, but oh so relieving once it's done. Now it's just me and Jay, navigating this crazy thing called life together. We're taking it one day at a time, making memories and laughing through the madness. And as for the past, it's in the rearview mirror, getting smaller by the minute. So, yeah, that's the latest chapter in the saga that is my life. It's been a roller coaster, but I'm finally learning to enjoy the ride, twists, turns, and all. Here's to new beginnings, leaving the drama behind and maybe, just maybe, finding a little bit of peace amidst the chaos. Update 4. So, Jay and I have been going strong, right? She's been this incredible source of strength and understanding through all the madness. We've been doing our thing, exploring, laughing, and really just soaking up the good vibes. Life with her felt like I was finally on the upswing, like maybe I could close the chapter on all the past hurt and betrayal. But here's where the plot thickens. Out of nowhere, my brother, let's call him Mr. Rollercoaster, decides to crash back into my life with a vengeance. He's been on a rough path, and now suddenly, he's all about making amends, talking about getting clean, and wanting to reconnect. He even started showing up at places he knew I'd be, talking about fate and second chances. Just when I thought I could navigate that minefield, C pops back up. But this time, it's not just a text or a call. She shows up in person, tears in her eyes, talking about how she's hit rock bottom. Her life with my brother turned into a nightmare of addiction and financial despair. She's looking at me like I'm some kind of lifeboat in her sea of chaos. And here's the cherry on top. My parents are back on their family is everything crusade, pushing me to forgive, forget, and play happy families again. They're orchestrating family dinners like we're in some sort of sitcom, where everything resolves in 30 minutes with hugs and life lessons. Jay's been an absolute saint through it all, but I can tell it's wearing on her too. It's one thing to deal with your own drama, but it's another to have someone else's circus pitch a tent in your backyard. So, after a lot of thought, soul-searching, and more than a few late-night talks with Jay, I decided to take a stand. I met with my brother, face-to-face, in a neutral spot. Told him I'm willing to support his recovery, but I'm not about to rewind the clock and pretend we can pick up where we left off. As for C, I wished her well, truly, but made it clear that our paths diverged a long time ago for a reason. The family dinner showdown was something out of a movie. I laid it all out, my terms for moving forward, how I felt, and what I needed from them if we were going to have any sort of relationship. It wasn't easy. There were tears, raised voices, and more than a few moments where I thought I might just walk out and not look back. But believe it or not, it ended with a semblance of understanding. Maybe not full-blown acceptance, but a step towards mutual respect for each other's boundaries and choices. Jay was right there with me, a pillar of strength and my unwavering supporter. As for what's next, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on building a life with Jay, navigating the complexities of familial relationships, and most importantly, learning to trust the process. It's not perfect, far from it, but it's real, it's mine, and I'm determined to make the most of it, come what may. So yeah, that's the latest. Life's a journey, and I'm just here trying to enjoy the ride, bumps and all. Here's to moving forward, finding peace, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of happiness along the way. Story 2. Hey y'all. So I'm sorry this is so long, but first off, these past 2 weeks have been hell for me until today. I found out on Tuesday that my boy for over a year had been cheating on me damn near the whole relationship with 4 to 5 different girls, and had got some random girl pregnant that he met on Facebook. He said he cheated on me after Christmas. Yet, I found out from his stepmom and stepbrother that he had been cheating for months with different girls. We were planning our life together, talking about kids, marriage, our goals, buying a house, etc. I never saw this coming. I trusted him, I loved him, my family loved him. I was so excited for our future. He never once made me think he was cheating. He was very attentive, loving, and caring, up until about a month ago, when I noticed we were having sex less. He barely complimented me, didn't want to kiss me, getting irritated with me over little things, etc. We had a talk 2 weeks ago, and I brought up how he had been acting. I asked him if he was still attracted to me if he wanted to be single. Was he stressed out? I told him he could be single if he wanted to, but to just be honest with me. He told me that he wanted to be with me, but just felt like he wasn't where he should be in life, and felt like we lost our spark. Me being the caring and loving GF that I was, I asked him what he needed from me. I suggested we go into relationship counseling. I was always checking in on him, on how he felt, and he always told me we were good. This break thing that he suggested caught me by surprise. We were both crying a river of tears. Then he told me he couldn't stand seeing me so upset and left. I found out he left me crying in my apartment to hang out with another girl that same night. Fast forward to Thursday night. I showed up at his house with my best friend to cut him out. He had blocked me from texting or calling him, and he never thought I would show up at his house. Elmo, his stepmom and stepbrother, kept tabs on him and let me know when he'd be home. I contemplated for 2 days about not doing it, trying to be the bigger person, etc. But I felt so disrespected. He had gave me an STI back in September, and we both didn't know where it came from. Now I know I got it from him cheating on me. I showed up at his house and barged open his door. The look on his face was as if he saw a ghost. He kept asking what I was doing there. I cussed him out and he couldn't see anything. He looked as if he was drunk and high and was reacting slow. He tried to put his hands on me, but my best friend jumped in. It felt so good to get my emotions out. His family was shocked and couldn't say anything because they had never seen me get like that. He continued to lie to me and said there were no other girls. I followed him outside, still cussing him out, and he tried to get in his car. I had my hand on the car window and he tried to close the door with my hands still there. I shoved the door back and he tried to slam it when the door panel popped out and fell on the ground. He then threatened to call the cops, and I told him to call them so I can tell them about how he knowingly gave me an STI. He never called them Elmo. I'm now sitting in my car reflecting, and I realized that he was jealous of me. He always told me how he wanted to be the dominant one and the provider in our relationship. I was 22 when we met, 23 now, and I have my own apartment. 2 cars, great credit, lots of friends, decent job side hustles, nice car. I'm extroverted, loving family, self-control, and I never asked him for anything but his love, time, and attention. I also took care of him and would spoil him by paying for haircuts, putting gas in his car sometimes while still paying my own bills. He, however, grew up on survival, almost got kicked out. The military, twice due to getting a DUI, made way more money than me but had terrible spending habits, is in debt, has a nice car that he can barely afford. Terrible credit. Can't stop drinking and smoking weed. Terrible family unit lives with his stepmom and dad, who is a bum and is overall a self-destructive. What attracted him to me? He was honest in the beginning about his faults and told me how he wanted to change and be better. I was attracted to his potential and loved how he acknowledged his problems and tried to work on them. In the end, he turned out to revert back to his destructive ways. I am everything he wanted to be, and he knew he wasn't good enough for me. I remember he used to ask me all the time why I was even with him because of that. His resentment for me grew over time, and he felt like he had to hurt and humble me by cheating. I will admit he did succeed in doing that, but I realize he is empty inside. He didn't grow up surrounded by love, so how I could expect him to know how to give it and more or less accept it? He didn't even love himself, so how could he love me? Realizing this has helped heal me in a way for anyone that has been cheated on. Please remember that it is not about you. You can do everything right. And guess what? It will never been enough for the wrong person. You will love again. You will meet someone who is praying to run into someone like you. I know it's hard, but allow yourself to feel every emotion and try to take it day by day. Thanks for letting me vent. Story 3. I overheard my wife talking about her cheating experience with my older brother while she was talking to her therapist. She shared in detail how they both passionately kissed, and he sexually groped and fondled with her breasts ass over the clothes while we were visiting my parents' house in the storeroom. I don't know if they slept together. From the conversation, I only heard that they both kissed. This happened last year when she was 4 months pregnant. I am in deep shock, and I am shaking right now as I write this. I don't know what to do or what to say, or if I should confront her or him. My wife is a good mother to 3 beautiful young children, 6 years old, 2 years old, and a 4-month-old. She kept saying that she is trying to call him and get a hold of him, but he has ghosted her since. Now she wants to confront him for using her and then ghosting her. Update. We spoke today because she can see how I am extremely uncomfortable and sad. She asked me if I heard anything while she was talking to her therapist. I said no, I didn't hear anything. I told her, why are you so worried about me hearing your conversation? She said something along the lines of, there are stuff in the past and I want to get over it. Our discussion continued as she pressed me to talk. She said that she doesn't like to see me sad or upset. I told her that you are a liar. You say something and do the opposite. Quick story short, I told her. You tell me you are hiding stuff. Be honest and stop lying to me. She said I have done mistakes and have hurt myself in the past. I regret all the mistakes I did. I told her you didn't just hurt yourself. You hurt me. And then she said, our kids too. I said, of course. I told her I cannot go on life with you living a lie. You hurt me and gave me a hard time, just enough so that I can divorce you. Just say that you don't want this life and we can go on our separate ways. She said, no, this is the life I want. But I didn't know. I was lost. I am still lost, but not as lost as before. I am in a clearer picture now. She tried to hug me and kiss me, but I wasn't interested. I haven't told her that I know about her doing her thing, but if she knows I know, then we are definitely done. Story 4. Hi all. We've been dating for just under 3 years. We started dating during COVID and have had a good relationship with some ups and downs due to the nature of her work. She travels 2 to 3 times per year around the country. I've never had reason to believe that she would cheat on me previously. However, this trip to large companies merged, so they all went on a trip to get to know each other. She left me on Thursday with our 2 cats. This morning I was borrowing her laptop as mine died when a text came through from someone I didn't recognize. I clicked on the text and saw their conversation. To summarize for context, she shared a room with on a GF current Jeffrey guy she cheated with talking about being on the plane. On A, said there was lots of snoring, so I'm sure you had a good sleep. Harry shit, yeah, I sometimes snore if I'm really tired. I won't tell anyone. JF, yeah, obviously, Harry, keep this between us, please. JF, my beef would kill me. Nothing happened, but I'll see you when I visit his state. She's away for another 2 nights. Any advice on what I should do? Do I confront her now or wait till she's home? I never thought she'd cheat on me, but guess I was wrong, Lamau. Edit. To clarify, Jeff is not on the plane. She's staying 2 extra nights. Anna and Jeff were sharing a room with separate beds. Anna said she heard snoring too. Jeff. Harry says he snores when he's tired. Edit again. They're not on the plane. This is in the hotel room she's sharing with Anna. The messages are in the morning, prior to the events of the night.
Casino workers, what is the saddest thing you have witnessed? I worked in the restaurant of a casino. We had a mother and daughter who were regulars, but not there every day. Maybe once or twice a week they'd come in and spend at least 8 hours on the slot machines. One time they hit it big. They won the jackpot, which if memory serves was about $15K. They looked so happy and they were crying tears of joy. I was happy for them. They were really nice people. Instead of going home and enjoying their winnings, they stuck around feeding more money into the machine. They came back every day for the next week. Within that week, the 15K was gone. After another week, they were both banned for asking other guests for money to borrow so they could play. Dopamine is a drug, and gambling feeds it. Story 2. I was dealing blackjack one day. Only one guy at my table. Looked to be about 45 to 50. We had been playing for a while, and the poor guy couldn't win to save his life. He was playing right, splitting eights and aces, staying on 17ths, the whole nine. One hand I have an ace up and open insurance. He looks at me, his nose a little red and his eyes wet. "Are you all right, sir?" He broke down crying. The poor dude had just lost his wife to his gambling addiction earlier that day. She couldn't take it anymore. I tried to console him. "We have a program at my casino that will limit your gambling to help your addiction." He cheered up and later visited to thank me, saying he got his wife back and turned his life around. Story 3. Melbourne Casino, 2003. My girlfriend and I were walking through the casino in the early hours of the morning, and there was a strange-looking guy moving oddly about 15 meters in front of us. We both kind of slowed up because his movements seemed so strange. Then it happened. He kind of huddled over and put his arms in a position like he was imitating a chicken very quickly. Then he shook his right leg and turd dropped out from the bottom of his pants and onto the casino floor. We both stopped in absolute disbelief. He just made a quick right turn and sat at a pokey/slot machine and continued playing. I guess he was a regular. Story 4. Was sorta a casino worker? I was a casino driver part-time for a while, driving premium gamblers home after a day at the tables. I've met people from all walks of life, high rollers to that 80-year-old granny who's there to play slots because she has nothing to do. The saddest story I've come across was this guy. Let's call him Joe. My initial contact with Joe was when he took my car back to his place. His family in tow. He had just won big. I sent him to one of the high-value estates in my country. Smiles all over. Tipped me $500 bucks. Spoke to him while on the road. Investment banker, married with 3 young kids, owned a few properties. I asked him if he came to the casino often. He said just once a week to cool off and eat good food. Prim and proper with a nice shirt and pants. I took 3 shifts in a week. Wed, Friday, Sat. And I always see Joe at 10:30 p.m. Friday. Wife and kids in tow. It came to the point where I call him Joe and know his kids' names. This happens over the next few months. He tips me well. Once I even brought him and his family to this late-night joint to eat. I waited outside for him to finish. Something changes after the first few months. I still see Joe, but family no longer in tow. He's alone. The kids are sick. Or, the wife is over at the mom's. Send me to XXX estate, he says. That's not the original estate that he was living in. I reach and see his wife waiting outside the house. I let him down and drive off. No tips. The next few months is more the same. The estates that he lives in gets worse and worse. I saw the wife once and she glares at me. From a huge mansion to a small apartment complex. One day, my friend calls in sick. Asks me to take the shift on Thursday. Get there by 8:30 p.m. It's chill. You literally go in and do jack shit as there's low traffic on the floor. When I reach, I see the hottie that works there. Stop to be all cool and shit. Was smoking halfway with her when I bump into Joe. We make light conversation. He's here to cool off after an argument with the wife. Okay, bro, good luck. A few hours of playing FIFA. I get called by my manager. There's a guy out there. It's 4:30 a.m. I walk out to the car. And it's Joe. He had been gambling since 8:30 p.m. He's drunk as hell. A security guard is holding him up. He got angry at a bad deal and threatened the dealer. I scanned his casino card. It was suspended. He lost his premium chauffeur services. I called my manager. He told security to call a cab. I said, nah, let him chill in the break room. I'll cab him back. My manager says that's not allowed. After some back and forth, my manager says fine. The security guy tells me this is not the first time. In the cab, he's still drunk as hell. There was a vomit smell in the air. He breaks down. He's broken. I tell him to stop gambling. He says he will win it all back. The cab stops. No wife outside. He's too drunk to get to his flat. I carry him up. I realized it was a rental flat. No sight of kids, no sight of wife. The place is in a mess. I put him in bed and got out. I never saw Joe again. Story 5. Not a casino worker, but I do remember a story that I still think about to this day. I was in Niagara Falls many years ago, Canada, and started playing blackjack at a cheaper table, $5 minimum. Played for a while and started doing well. Another player joined in. He had a mental impairment that I can't pinpoint. He was friendly enough and said his goal was to get a comp breakfast. For those who don't know, if you have a membership card to the casino, you can usually earn points towards free stuff while you play games. The table starts hitting a nice streak. House busts quite a bit, and we're all profiting. At this point, the new guy earned himself about $100. We joke with him that now he can buy us all breakfast, that sort of thing. More time passes and he's betting table max now. I believe he was up past $800 or so. I was also happily up a few hundred as well. We start to get a bit of a crowd and he asks the dealer if he has enough points for a free breakfast now. We all laugh, but turns out he was dead serious. The dealer asks the pit boss, who replies, "Not yet," with a smile. Well, as luck usually works, the table starts losing. Buddy is still betting max and falling fast. He keeps asking if he earned his breakfast yet. We're all starting to insist that he could walk away now and buy himself the best breakfast in town many times over, but he was completely focused on getting this one comp breakfast. Every time he asked, the pit boss just kept saying nope, not yet. Even the dealer at one point was politely suggesting that the pit boss just ring it up. You could tell something wasn't quite right with the guy at the table, and it really started feeling cruel, you know? Anyway, the guy ends up losing it all. The crowd that formed to watch were sort of in disbelief, and the last time he asks the pit boss if he earned his breakfast, the guy looks over, sees that he's out of money, and says, "Yep, you just earned your breakfast. Congratulations." The player was happy that he won the breakfast, but none of us were even sure he understood what he lost to make it. I left the table as soon as that happened, rather furious that the pit boss was that heartless. I realize it's a business, but come on. I rarely play blackjack anymore, and I never went back to that casino. Story 6. Well, recently in the Philippines, there was a man addicted to gambling and had gambled so much his wife left him with his children, and he had some bad debts with the wrong people, so he tried to settle it. He went into Manila's biggest casino and started setting the game tables on fire and tried to grab over 1 million pesos worth of chips. I know it's stupid, roughly about $20,000. After realizing he was caught and no way out, he went into one of the hotel rooms and set himself on fire, taking multiple people with him due to smoke inhalation. It's just sad, really. He was so addicted to gambling. His friends and family say that he actually won big games, $10,000 games, 500,000 pesos games, but he was never content. Story 7. When I turned 19, my dad took me to Ontario to go to a casino with my stepmother. I remember my dad and I are walking the floor, and we stop at the roulette table to see a guy with what was easily $5,000 on the table. A woman is standing next to him, openly praying with tears streaming down her face as he is gambling this big chunk of cash. Dealer spins and they lose. All the color drains from his face, and I was confident he just ruined his life. Next morning, we are packing up to leave and notice rescue boats and fire trucks at the falls. Someone mentioned that some guy threw himself over the falls. I always hoped it was never the guy from the casino, and he straightened everything out. Story 8. I work security at one of Canada's largest casinos. Well, there's only 2 big ones, but whatever. A couple years ago, well, more than a couple really, I think 8 to 9, a guy comes in. He's on vacation with his family, but they're in the hotel, so he comes down to play some blackjack. I was relatively new back then, was working for about 8 months. I didn't know who he was, but my boss, head of security, did. Apparently they were friends. This guy pulls out $20K to play blackjack. Now this isn't a lot in comparison to Vegas, but we rarely see people with more than 5-10K even in the high roller room. He's placing $1,000 chips down, playing 7 hands at a time, and it's going all right. He was up maybe $18,000 in 10 minutes. Then he starts placing the max and loses it all within half an hour or so. Now this isn't too unusual. I've worked here a while. People come here to lose their money. This guy, though, did not seem to care at all. He walks to the cage and gets over $250K in chips. Apparently this guy brings a bit of cash to lose in cash and then collects the money he wore transferred. First of all, who the hell does that? Who has a ritual to lose money before playing seriously? Whatever, not important. He goes to the high roller baccarat table, which is $100 to $15,000. I have seen very few people place $15,000 on these tables. But you know what? This guy just brought $20K to lose and has $250,000 left to gamble with. Let's see where this goes. Once he sits down, they change the bet to 100 to 25,000. In the 8 months I'd worked there, and 9 years since, I have not seen this happen. He starts betting 25K each hand, 10% of his stack. Or so I thought. I won't bore you with the details, but he eventually loses everything after some up and down swings and leaves the casino. Or so I thought. About an hour later, he comes back and goes to the cage. He hands them a paper, no idea what it was, I'm guessing proof of a wire transfer, and he gets a shit ton more chips. I genuinely have no idea how much he got, but it was well over 500K. He proceeds to lose all this too. I think at this point you could see some emotion in his face, but we don't really hear anything. This guy lost over 750K and is a lot more polite than some of the people we've had to kick out for throwing a fuss over $20. So I know what you're thinking. This is probably some big shot billionaire. What's 750K to him? Yeah, I thought the same. I would later learn from my boss that while he was well off, he was not in a position to lose the amount he lost that day. My boss was talking to him through his session, saying how he should go back to his hotel room, but he would just laugh it off. Again, not to bore you with the details, cause this isn't the sad part of the story, but this same guy comes back 3 more times. In total, I've been told, he lost 3.5 to 4.0 million in those 4 trips. So like I said, my boss is friends with him, so we know a little bit more about this guy than we should. He's basically a successful businessman who owned a couple of convenience stores and a restaurant. He loaned out over 300K to his friends, who shortly after stopped talking to him and ran off with the money. From everything I could tell, he was a genuinely nice guy who had just been taken advantage of, who had a clear gambling addiction. Apparently, shortly after his last visit, he only had the restaurant left in his name. Sold the convenience stores he had. That's really all the information we had about him. About 7 years pass, and we never saw him at the casino again. Then last year I saw him again. But he wasn't gambling. He was in the security office with a younger kid and my boss. I knew the younger kid cause he used to come to casino once every 2 to 3 weeks and blow 4-5K a visit. He was the youngest platinum member I'd seen in the platinum lounge, and pretty nice too. The dealers would talk about him in the break room cause he was always friendly and would tip well. Turns out this kid is the guy's son. I don't approach them or anything, but afterwards I learned from my boss that this kid lost over 50K at our casino over the course of the past year. His dad made him sign a self-exclusion policy so that he was banned for life. The kid, like his dad, had a gambling addiction. I thought it was just a rich kid with money to blow, but no, this kid was working more hours than most people I knew just to fund his gambling. He would take the casino bus for 2 hours back and forth just to gamble when he got a day off work. I found this story the saddest cause it wasn't just a single person but the family. I really hope the kid got some help, as I'm sure his dad did, since he never showed up again. Story 9. I worked VIP reception at the hotel of a large casino. I've seen people win and lose. I've seen people come to check in for one night only to extend their stay for a week because they're chasing their money. I checked a man into his suite for the weekend only to find him back at my desk a half hour later checking out because he had already lost 50K. I've had wives frantically calling because husbands have cleared out their accounts and disappeared. I listened to a woman sob on the phone that her husband had taken their kids' college savings. Stories of people defaulting on their homes trying to turn their luck around. Casinos are cities of vices, and sometimes you see the lowest a person can get. Gambling addiction is very hard to watch. Story 10. I worked in casinos in Mississippi for quite a few years. This is a story from the craps table. The following incident happened back in the 90s. Sorry for the overuse of parentheses. They're mostly to include a little extra information for people not familiar with craps. Several young, early 20s couples were playing on my table. They were having a good time, but seemed to know nothing about the game. Of course, we tried to teach novices while the game is underway, but sometimes karma/fate/the capricious will of the universe/whatever you want to call this nebulous concept outpaces the learning curve. They were playing the sucker bets, mostly the field, and started to win quickly. Sometimes the dice just seemed to want to give away money. Complicated explanations of things like place bets and come bets went right past their alcohol-soaked brains. Yes, Virginia, there is a reason those drinks are free. One young fellow in particular was winning hard and fast. While his friends were betting small amounts, he was pressing his bets aggressively. The whole group were whooping it up and having a high old time, but this guy and his fiancée were clearly, and with reason, the most excited. The guy had bought in for $100. In about 15 minutes, he'd racked up about $20,000 in checks, chips, interlock when stacked, checks to not. Then the dice began to turn. His packed rail of checks began to slowly shrink. When it got below 15K, the fiancée started trying to get him to leave. I recall her informing him at one point that he had a down payment on a house in front of him. Of course, the big and easy wins had him convinced that he was playing the genius strategy and just needed to hold the course through this dry spell. It took him about another 15 minutes to blow through it all. As the bankroll shrank, the fiancée became more and more agitated. She yelled at him, tried to pull him away by the arm, screamed at him. Nothing got through. When he was down to a few thousand, she became hysterical, clawed the ring off her finger, threw it at him, and stalked off screaming between her sobs. Looking subdued and resigned, he played back the rest of his winnings until he left the table with nothing.